Okay. Little housekeeping before we start. This is Sal. Sal and I both work in the refurbishing group with Rosita, okay? And he's going to videotape the screen, and we're hoping to put it up on the YouTube when we're done, the class. We'll see how it goes. If I stumble around too much, maybe we'll just delete it. But, or if I go too fast, that's another thing. Sometimes I get going very fast, and just slow me down, okay? I have a nice thick skin, so if I go too fast or if I start mumbling, just let me know, okay? All right. So like I said, everything will be on the screen. If you want to try to follow along, you can, but I don't think it's be very helpful. But if you want, give it a shot. Anytime there's questions, just go ahead and ask, and we'll go from there, okay? So basically, I do certain maintenance on my computer, and this is what I do, okay? Actually, with the refurbishing group, we do some of the same things, and some of the things we do a little different. Because we have 8 people, and we go with the consensus of what everybody wants, not necessarily with what one person wants. How often should you do it? I didn't really put that in here because that's sort of a matter of opinion, okay? I do it periodically. When I sort of think my machine needs it, that's when I do it. Some people do it once a week or once a month, if you want to get on a schedule. I'm not very good about schedules, so I just do it sort of when I feel like it, okay? All right, let me bring up the presentation. And what I hope to do, assuming this all goes smoothly, slideshow. Okay, PC maintenance. For me, there's 3 kinds of maintenance you need to deal with, okay? One is, a lot of people get where their machine boots very, very slow, okay? This slideshow will be, I'll have it put up on the website probably in the next week or so. So you don't necessarily need to get detailed notes, but so the slideshow itself will be up there. But if you want to make notes on what's going on, fine. Boot speed. So if you've been around PCs a while and you've had one for a while, quite often after so many years, it takes forever to boot, okay? The next one is computer maintenance, and that's a little more generic. And then the next one is maintaining your internet access, okay? Okay, so those are the 3 main topics I'll cover. Okay, boot speed. What impacts you on boot speed is the number of programs that load, okay? So hopefully most of you are aware that the more programs your computer's running all the time, the slower it will go, all right? And what happens over time is different vendors, different computer companies, different software, they all think that your computer should be their computer, and they want to load up their software when your computer boots, which may or may not match what you want, okay? In my case, it almost never matches. I don't have very many things boot up on my machine when I first start. So these are 3 tools, msconfig, CCleaner, and Revo uninstaller. And you can use these tools, any one of these 3 tools, to control which programs start up when you boot your computer. I use the last one, all right, and that's the one we'll cover. But the other 2 can be used. msconfig is the Microsoft one. I've always found it awkward. It's just not quite as user-friendly as I would like. CCleaner has the same capability, but I've never used it very often. I started using Revo a number of years ago. It's very user-friendly, so I've stuck with it, okay? All right, download from the site. I'll try to walk you guys through that. Make sure you get the free one. So looks like I didn't get a good choice of colors. I don't know if you can read that, Revo uninstaller, but that's on your handouts. Let's see how good this software is, see if it'll go through. So if you click on that site, this is where it'll take you, okay, on that link. And can't see it very well at the bottom, but this is Windows Explorer, Internet Explorer. And you can either run the program or you can save it. Okay, if you use Firefox, which is what I normally use, it'll automatically save, okay? doesn't give you the choice. This is one place where Internet Explorer give you the choice to run or save. So normally if you're downloading, you want to run it, you just click run. So it'll download it, and in this case we're running a vast internet, so it'll security check it, and now it'll try to install it, okay? Now I'm running this under Windows 7, but it's pretty much the same under Windows 8. So I did a next, now you have to agree to the terms. I take the default on where to install it, and it's done, okay? So it's a fairly fast program to install. Okay, there's the program. Let's go back to the slideshow for a moment if I can find it here. Yeah, why did it? That was strange. It went back to not full screen. Should have, and it didn't go back to where I left off. Okay. Double click the icon to start it. Because we installed it, it started it automatically. Guess I'm going to have to run it this way. So there's the program. The screen you see when it comes up is this screen, and this is used for uninstalling programs, okay? Which we're going to cover a little bit here. So basically, let me go back to get back onto my slideshow and see what I covered first. In this area on the boot, we're going to cover the startup. So we have to go to what's called the tools, and then we'll get into there. So if you look at the screen here, you're in the uninstaller. We have to go up here to tools. Click on Tools, and it'll take you to another screen. And in computer terminology, auto run is what they call the startup programs, the programs that auto run at the beginning. So we'll click on that. So we went Tools, and now we're going to click on Auto Run. That's a list of all the programs that are going to start automatically, okay? Turns out it's not foolproof, but it'll give you most of the major ones, okay? In Windows, there's some things that you don't always see. So here, any program you want to not start, you just uncheck it. So let's look down here. The first one is Avast. Well, that's our antivirus, so we want that to run all the time. The next one is Adobe ARM. Well, I'm not sure if I want that to run all the time. So you can right-click on that and say search at Google for, and it'll actually go out on the web and get information about it for you, okay? So you can look down here, it says probably down here maybe Adobe Community, new startup item, and look at it, what they say to see, do I really want to leave this running all the time or not, okay? So you understand that okay?
Do you?
What?
Do you want it running on?
No. So we're going to go uninstall it. So basically, the only time you want something from Adobe running all the time, like Adobe ARM has to do with Adobe Reader. Everybody familiar with Adobe Reader? You don't use Adobe Reader every single time you're on your computer, so it doesn't need to be auto-starting that, okay? And that's a support program. So we'll go back to Revo, and we'll uncheck it. And it says Adobe Reader and Manager will no longer auto-start, okay? Now, if I remember right, that program actually does the updates, okay? So it goes around and checks for updates for Adobe. Or like this one here is some part of Microsoft 2010. So we can uncheck that. We say, I don't want that to start every time. Because maybe mostly what I do is just get on the internet and do email and web browsing. I use Office very infrequently, so I don't need it running in the background all the time, okay? So you look through here, uncheck what you want. If you're not sure, right-click and do a Google on it. And if you're still not sure, probably leave it on, okay? So like these next couple here, hotkey commands, well, I don't know exactly what those are, so I leave them on, okay? Turns out they're on every single Microsoft machine, okay? But you could take it, if you wanted, you could do a right click on that and you could go check it out and see what you could learn about it, okay?
Could you ever turn off all of them and get yourself into trouble?
I don't think so. And you can just reboot and come back and put them on.
The same thing with MS-config, if you decide to use that, you could take them all off there?
I think so. As far as I know, you can undo them all. I think I've done it once, but it's been quite a while. I usually leave the last 3 that you see there. You'll find most of the machines I work on, there's about 3 or 4 and that's it. You might see 20 or 30 of them in the list, but there's only 2 or 3 turned on.
Did you say Revo is running now? As soon as you downloaded it, started to run? Oh,
Because I installed it, it started up automatically. I think there was probably a box check to say start.
Okay.
So
if you uninstall, say, Adobe Reader, but then the next time you use your computer, you want Adobe Reader, you have to reinstall it.
no, so at this point, all we did was say don't auto run.
Okay.
So all you would have to do is come back into Revo, Tools, and check that box back on, and next time it'll be there.
A lot of times, too, when you just start Adobe Reader, it puts it in the start menu.
Yes. Yep. So this is a machine that I probably cleaned up 6-9 months ago. So this is belongs to the users group, and it's a dual boot Windows 7, Windows 8, okay? So if we get to the end and somebody wants to see some of this on Windows 8, we can play with that if we have time, okay? So we'll see how that goes. If we get to the end, we have plenty of time, we'll play a little bit. Okay, so that's how you control the auto run, okay? If we go to the next screen here. Uncheck to remove from start, right click to go to Google. I covered those. Okay, computer maintenance. So we're going to switch off of Revo now. We'll come back to Revo later on in the class here, but for now we're done with it. Okay, computer maintenance. For me, there's 3 parts to that: disk fragmentation, unused programs, and removing junk. Okay, so those are all things that can bog your computer down over time. And we'll go through each one of those. Disk fragmentation, I don't know does anybody not know what that is? You know everybody know what that is, or I need to explain it a little bit?
Explain it a little bit.
What?
Explain it a little bit.
Okay. The way the computer works is your information is stored on a hard drive, okay? And if you heard some of the comparison, it's like the old-fashioned records. It's circular cylinders, they call them, and the data is stored on there, okay? And to access the data, an arm has to move in and out, okay? And then it has to read which platter it's on. Well, moving in and out and waiting for that to spin around, that all takes time, okay? It's very fast, but it takes time. When your program or your data is written out to the hard drive, it may not all be in a sequential on one of those. Maybe some here, some there. So if it's not all sequential, then the computer has to move that arm and find it, okay? And every time it moves it, every time it waits for that thing to spin around, takes time, all right? So what disk defragmentation does is put it all together in one long string, so when it says, I want to read it, it's all right there. It doesn't have to move the arm, so it reads quicker, okay? In the refurbishing group, when we get a machine in that's really, really slow, usually you do a disk fragment and that'll fix 75% of the problem, just that one thing, okay? Because I'm a little biased, I might use Windows, but I think Microsoft does a poor job, okay? There's no reason today's computer shouldn't be able to write it out all strung together properly in the first place. You should never have to really defrag your disk. I mean, I don't know what your computers are, but most computers you buy today have like 500 gigabyte drive or a terabyte drive. There's all kinds of extra space. There's no reason they can't find a space big enough to put your stuff, but they don't.
If you interrupt defrag at any point in time when it's trying to pull pieces of the program together, and you just stop it, what happens to the defragmentation that you've done up to that point?
As far as I know, I'm not an expert in the area, but as far as I could, from observing and being a software engineer in the past, all the ones that are done, each file that is done is completed, okay? But the one that you're in the midst of doing, okay, so I'm in the middle of doing one and you kill the program.
Right.
That one will not be done. So my understanding of the way that works is they use a fail-safe method, so they're copying it, but they have basically the original copy and the new copy. If you kill it, the new copy will not be written properly, will not be closed out, okay? So everybody understand the question? If you're doing a defrag, you really don't want to stop in the middle, okay? I have a friend that I worked 30 years in software engineering with, and she won't do a defrag unless she knows it can run to the end. She won't stop it. She's worried about power failures, but I have stopped it and have had no problem. It just doesn't finish the last file. So I think if there was those kind of problems with power glitches, I live out east with lots of power glitches, and people would be screaming bloody murder if every time they did a defrag and they had a power glitch that they lost the data. Okay. Okay, defragmenting. So like I said, the things don't get lined up on the disk properly, and eventually things get slower and slower, so you have to do run a program to defragment it. Windows has a defragment program. My comments here really have to do with Windows 7. Things are a little different in each version of Windows XP versus 7 versus 8, okay?
So you just keep running it until it stops by itself?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and we'll run it here.
Okay.
I'll run a demo of it. So Windows has a defragment program built in Windows 7. I stopped using it almost first time I loaded up Windows 7, because the first thing I wanted to do was an external drive. I had an external USB hard drive, and I wanted to defragment it, and it says, I don't do those. So Windows doesn't support that. I also found that if you do a Windows defragment and you use another program after it, quite often it'll tell you it needs to be defragged. So I looked into third parties, and there's a lot of good third-party defragment programs out there. One that's real popular is called AusLogic, A-U-S Logic. I use Defraggler, which is the last one on the screen. It's not the fastest one. If you're looking for speed, it's not a speed burner, but it does a good job. It does USB. It's from a reputable company, and it's free. Okay, but there's others around, and if you have other ones, they're probably fine. Okay, and if you're happy with them, you don't necessarily need to change. Okay. All right.
Is there one built into our,
There is one built in, yeah.
and that's the one you said you don't?
I don't use it,
Right.
but I can show you where it is if you'd like.
Why not? Might as well.
Yeah, so in a second here, I'll show you where the built-in one is. Because there are some other things that we'll actually be getting into. I probably should have done that in different order, but the presentation. But yeah, there's something called Disk Cleanup, which is sitting right next to the Microsoft version of Defraggler, which we'll cover in a minute. Okay, so there's Defraggler. And let's go over to Internet Explorer. And we'll put the link that's on your handouts. Okay, you'll notice it's by Puriform, okay, and that's a company that does a lot of these different things. They do CCleaner, they do Defraggler, they do some other programs, okay? And you'll see there's 3 columns, so we want the free one, no support, that's over on the left. Let's move this up so over the light having problems. So since I know that this is Puriform as the vendor, and I can download from their site, I always pick that, all right? You want to be careful how you pick these up, all right? Because if you pick them up at other sites, like download.com, which used to be a wonderful site, they have all kinds of things that they want to load on with it, okay? So the links I gave you are pretty clean. You should have very little problem with picking up extra stuff. So we'll go ahead and run Puriform, this version of the installer. So it's running the security scan now if you're watching at the bottom. So Avast is checking to make sure there's no viruses in there. And it should pop up the window in a moment. There we go.
Do you prefer Avast over AVG?
I do, but I'm not sure that it's a big deal. What happened was years ago, a friend of mine had AVG, and it took me 5 hours to get it off his machine when it got corrupted. So since then, I've been using Avast. But if you look at the trade journals, and they rate the different antiviruses, it's sort of like leapfrogs: AVG, Avast. So they're usually both right there at the top. I think right at the moment Avast is #1, but wait a month and it'll change. At the refurb group, they used to use a AVG, and then we ran into some of these uninstall problems, so we switched to Avast. But like Dave Winkleman, who's one of the long-term refurb guys, on his home computers, he uses AVG. Okay, now when I install Defragler, I don't leave all of these checked, okay? So I want a desktop icon. Everybody know what a desktop icon is? So it'll be on your desktop. You just double-click it to run it. The start menu is if you click down here to start, we want to be able to see it there. So if something happens to our desktop icon, we can go back and run it with a couple keystrokes instead of one. But I uncheck the next two. I don't need it added to my Windows Explorer, and I don't need it to replace the Microsoft one. If for some reason I ever want to go back to the Microsoft one, I want it left there. And then when I run the program, it'll automatically check for updates. That sounds good to me. So that's the way I do that. Uncheck the 2 and leave the other 3. And we'll install it. All right, then when it says, do you want to run it? So the first time, yeah, we'll run it. Do you want to read the release notes? If you're a detailed programmer type guru, you might want to read it, but I always uncheck it. I'm not interested in the details. I just want the program to work. Okay, so it should be installed. We should have it on the, I didn't show the other one, but we should be able to go to the desktop here. Windows 7, if you click on the lower right corner, it'll show you your desktop. So there's Revo from earlier, and here's Defragler now, okay? And we have it in the tray, so we can bring it up. One of the other things the Windows 7 Defragler does, it doesn't give you a nice pretty picture of what's going on. It doesn't give you a good feel for how far you are along in the process. Most of the other programs do a better job. So if we look at this one, okay, it's giving you up in the upper part up here, it's giving you the what the disk sort of looks like, but it hasn't filled in what's defragged and what's not. So if we click on Analyze, it'll go out and start looking at it. All right, do you want to empty the recycle bin? Apparently there's something in there, so we'll say yes. No sense defragmenting something that's going to be thrown away later. Okay, so this one says that the health of the disk is good, but it's got 130 files that are fragmented in total of 730 fragments, and it takes up 9.1 gig, and it's 40% of my machine. Okay, so I'll give you a warning now. With 9 gig, we're not going to finish during this class if we do a full defrag. Okay, it'll take way too long. But with this program, you have a couple of options. Go ahead.
You didn't turn it on to defrag.
No, I just said analyze it and let's see what we got.
Right.
And that's usually
And then to turn
good.
it on,
You click the defrag button down here. And what I usually do is I do it when I go to bed at night, or I do it if I'm going to work, or I do it if I'm going to lunch or something like that, because it'll usually take 45 minutes minimum, and it can take hours. Like some of the ones we've had the kids bring into the refurbishing group, it came up with 20 hours to start. They'll have...
Does it tell you how long it will take or not?
It will, yeah. I'll turn it on in a second, we'll see. So you can do that. Also, you can, if you're interested, you can click on File List here and see which programs or which files subset of files, which ones need to be defragged and which ones are the worst, okay? So CBS log, which I'm not sure what that is got 127 fragments and it's 20 megabytes of information, okay? So you can click on the columns here and you can click them by who's got the most fragments, who's got the most size, file name, or where it is in your machine, okay? So you'll notice there's two here at the top, pagefile.sys and hyperfile.sys. Those are part of the OS, okay? And the first one is a page file.
What's the OS?
Operating system, Windows.
Okay, thank you, Windows, I got you.
Okay, so the first two are part of that, and those will not defragment, okay? So even though you'll tell it to defragment everything, those two will not, okay? Because they're in use, all right? They're in use by Windows. And if something that's in use will not normally be defragged, okay? If somebody's using it, you can't turn around and defrag it.
I have a question for you on that DB stuff. You know, see the DBs, there's 3 of them, and one of them says per 2, one of them says per 3. They're, like, are they? I'm trying to figure out if all that is necessary normally when you see, like, so, lots of times you'll see a program 1, 2, 3, 4.
You're talking about like in your My Documents or something?
Well, when you look to see these programs and you see, or what have been downloaded, sometimes they'll be listed 2 and 3 times. Sometimes they'll say updates, okay, I understand that. But even with updates, you got to keep the first one and the second one, and you got to keep
I think
them
what you're saying is normally on these versions of Microsoft and Internet Explorer, if you do a download of defraggler, it'll go down there. And if before you do anything with it, you say download it again, then it'll put, I think it's a bracket 2 on the end, or paren 2s, and you do it again, you get 3.
Okay.
That usually means you've got multiple copies of the same part, and you only need the first one.
So will the defrag take care of that, or
No.
You got to take care
That's a different thing. And there's tools for that, but normally you take care of that, or you get a program that looks for duplicates.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Which I've never fooled with much, because
Oh, really?
I keep an eye on my computer, so I usually know what's on it. And
Yeah, but you're more knowledgeable.
yeah, yeah. But you know, if you look in your documents and you see that, then investigate it and see what's, you know, if you understand what's going on, you can delete the extras. If it's exactly the same name and it's got the same size, it's usually the same
Well,
thing.
sometimes they're not quite the same size. That's just really weird. They're the same name, but not the same size.
That can happen if you wait a while. So like defraggler has a version. If we go up here and go into help, there should be a version about. So this one's version 2.16.809. So it's a certain size. And if you wait a month and you go download it again, it may be a new version, it may not. And if it's a new version, it will be a different size, the odds are.
Well, would it make sense then if they're 2 identical things, different dates, that you get rid of the oldest date?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, most likely. Okay, so if you wish to, you can get in here and you can actually say, I want to deflag just one file, okay? So let's do that to keep things simple here. So we'll go over here and we'll do the one that has the most, and we'll check it and we'll say defrag checked. All right, so now, because I said defrag whatever, it shows you the ones. And is it done already? Yes, it is. So if you look at cbs.log, it's now 1 fragment. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And we go back to drive C. Nothing probably really changed here. We'd have to click and analyze to see it again. Okay? But if we say defrag, I'll kill it in a minute. But so it's going to build a file list, which is sort of not a very smart program. It already had the file list. So, but it builds it again, just in case. And it's off and running. So you can see up here, it's moving things around, okay? And there's a, I think it's under help. There's a legend that tells you what the different things mean, okay? So if you're interested in what's going on, you can look at it. So red is fragmented, okay? So all these red ones are fragmented things, all right? And it's estimating 2 hours and 10 minutes, so we're not going to wait that long.
Where's 2 hours and 10 minutes?
Okay? Right here.
Oh, I got you.
Okay.
Good. Thank you.
Does this software come with a automatic shutdown where it powers the computer off at the end of the defrag?
I do not think so. But we can look.
So when you run it,
Let's look and see.
when you run it and go to bed, then you just go to sleep or something like that?
Yeah. Actually, my computer works at night, so I have all my backups scheduled every night and that kind of thing. So I don't do any of those manually. I guess it won't let me change any of that while it's running. Let's see. There you go, shut down after defrag, okay? So you can check it right there, or close program after defrag. So yeah, if you normally shut your machine down at night, you could check that and then it will shut down when it's done, okay?
On mine, I have that program already in this computer.
Uh-huh.
And it says maybe 10 hours, okay? And it's all done in 1 hour.
That can happen. This program has got, in my opinion, one little flaw, and that was there are certain files I said that would not be defragged, okay?
Yeah.
If they're big, it has them in the estimate, okay? You saw they were in the list, okay? But once it goes to do it, it says I can't do them. So all of a sudden you'll get a speed up. It'll sort of jump ahead. So it sees this big file and says, oh, I can't do that one. It skips over that one. And all of a sudden you went from 2 hours to an hour, okay?
Well, first place I got Vista.
Okay.
Does that change it?
No, this program is pretty much the same on anything. I haven't run much Vista, but it's pretty much the same on XP and Windows 7. And I only had Vista on a machine for myself for a short period of time. So, but if you don't know, for the people that don't know, Windows 7 is just Vista warmed over, no matter what they tell you. Under the hood, it's the same, almost identical. Okay.
For large files like you just alluded to, would running the defrag twice then begin to work on a large, or would it never defrag those?
No, it'll defrag large files, but it won't do files that Microsoft Windows has opened. Okay, and there's no way around that.
You mean
So as long-
Microsoft Windows won't let you?
Right.
Okay.
So there's no point in defragging it 2 times in a row?
Sometimes actually it will do a little more, but because I'm not sure Microsoft's very good about rewriting the second file. It can actually, when it picks it up and moves it, I think it can get defragged again, okay? I think you will see running it twice, you'll get a little bit of benefit. You shouldn't, but you do, I think. Okay, so that's defrag, okay? And if you do that on a periodic basis, you can either wait for your machine, you say, oh, it seems to be, or if you run it or the first Saturday of the month or something like that, it'll help out. Always scared about doing that, stopping it, and did I just blow up on my machine? No, you should be fine. It's not probably the best thing to do in the world, but if you need to do it, you can do it, okay? All right, let's go back to the...
What about when your file is, you see that picture of the blue there before? It was only a little over a quarter of the whole circle. What about if
It's more full?
yeah.
Yeah. That's when the fragmentation really starts to slow your machine down. When you get your disk full, like more than 50%, that's a number to me that's important. You don't want your disk really more than 50% full. There's a couple reasons. So when you go to defrag it, if it's 80% full, it's got to find empty space to work. And now you don't have very much empty space, so it's much more difficult for it to do the job. And the time it takes to run, if you got a 75–80% full drive, it just goes up dramatically, okay? If you keep it below 50%, it'll run pretty efficient. Because if I really didn't cover it, but the way defrag works is it moves everything, okay? So it's got to have room to move it, and if it wants it to be all together, it has to have a big space to move it to, okay? So if there's no big spaces, then you're in trouble, and it won't run very efficient, okay? And really, if you're at 70 or 80%, you should be moving up to a bigger drive.
This is about 55%.
That's not too bad. So 50, 55, or 45, you know, it's all roughly the same. Okay. So defragler, I think we've sort of covered that. Install from Piriform, and you double click on the icon on the desktop. Okay. Unused programs. All right. Over time, if it's sort of like a lot of people's closets, you just accumulate. And what you accumulate is programs. So this day and age, you can download all kinds of programs like defragler and Revo and plenty more from the internet. Or, for instance, let's just say you bought a camera and you installed the software for it, and then it dies, so you buy another camera and you install the software for that. So now you got software from Kodak and you got software from Olympus. Same thing happens with printers. You buy one printer and it dies, and you buy another one and you install the software for that. People don't very often go back and uninstall all the old software, but you should, okay? Okay, and to uninstall programs you're not using, so you've got to use a program to do that. In the old days, you used Windows Control Panel, and you use something called Programs and Features. That's the terms on Windows 7. Microsoft changes that. If you go back to XP, it's got, I think it says Add Programs. But on Windows 7, it's Programs and Features. I'm not sure exactly what it is on Windows 8. Or you can use CCleaner or Revo Uninstaller, okay? And like I said, I got into Revo a long time ago, before CCleaner had this feature. So I use the Revo for that. All right, so I use the same program I use to take care of the auto runs. I use that same program to get rid of programs that I don't want anymore. Okay?
But you have to do that manually, right?
Yeah, I'll show you how to do it. So we've already installed Revo, and in our case right now, we sort of have it up and running. So all we need to do is double click on the icon on the desktop and bring it up. And we'll go in here. This screen tells you, let's go run it. So we go over here, and let me get rid of it and start clean. So we'll get rid of this. So we'll go over and we'll run Revo. Double click on it. Okay. When it comes up, it always comes up with this box highlighted, uninstaller. All right. So these are the programs it sees on your machine. Well, actually, there's about 3 levels. Okay. Let's see how this one's set up. Under Options, Uninstaller. You can tell I didn't install this one because I always check some boxes here. Change some of the checkings. Rosita, I think, installed this one. So if you come in here, I always do Show System Components and uncheck Delete Leftovers. So I'll explain why I do that. Just Show System Components. Certain programs are listed as system components, so they don't show up. And I think like printers may not show up if you don't check that, all right? Software to support printers. And then the last one, Delete Leftovers. If you don't uncheck that, everything goes in the recycle bin. Then you have to turn around and say, go empty the recycle bin. Well, I wanted it off in the first place, so I don't really want to go through 2 steps, okay? So it just saves me from having to go over and click on the recycle bin and say empty it, and then saying, yeah, are you sure? Yes. So that speeds my work up a little bit.
Registry files and things like that are going to get deleted.
That's the beauty of Revo, okay? And we'll delete something just so you can see it, okay? And that's the main reason you use Revo versus the Microsoft built-in one. It will get a lot more. It will clean up your machine a lot more. So let's spread this out a little bit so you can see things a little better. Now, one of the disadvantages of me clicking Show System Components, you see more. So you got to sort through more, okay? And you'll see that, like Microsoft Office, there's just a load of stuff, okay? All right? But most of the stuff, if you know a little bit about your computer, you know what it is. So if you know what Adobe Flash is, or Adobe Reader, or Adobe Shockwave, those are all programs, except for Reader. Flash and Shockwave support your web pages. Those are features of web pages. If you go to certain web pages, if you don't have those programs, something will not work on your web page, okay?
I'd be afraid to get rid of stuff, though. how can I really know if it's something I need?
Well, yeah, just a second.
Okay.
So yeah, so there's lots of stuff here and it's a little confusing. Some of it you'll know, okay, some of it you won't. Like most of you probably don't know what Bell Arc Advisor is, okay? Okay, and that's a program we use at the refurbishing group to know certain things about our computers, okay? So let's say you don't know what it is and you're not sure whether to get rid of it or not. So you right click on it, search at Google for Bell Arc Advisor, okay? Now one of the problems with Google is the stuff at the top is all ads. Somebody paid them to put that, yeah. I presumed everybody knew that. So the stuff at the top that they want you to look at first is all paid stuff. So what I usually do...
And isn't that where sometimes they double jump into your computer if you open it?
Oh yeah. So what I usually do is if I was looking for Bell Arc Advisor, I look for a name that looks like Bell Arc Advisor. So download obviously isn't and shopping isn't, but this one might be, okay? So that would be the one I would look at first. And what I usually do is I right click and say open in a new tab. So if I need to, I can go back. And it looks like I got way too much stuff running here on this program. Looks like for some reason things are not very fast. Yeah, I'm impatient. Try it again.
What does cause that stuff?
I'm not always sure. It can be the site's slow, like Bell Arc. They have to buy their own computers, okay? If they're a little cheap, they don't have fast computers, or they don't have enough computers, it'll be slow. Another thing that will happen sometimes is ads. This one doesn't have any ads, but if you go to a site with lots of ads, you've got to get all those ads loaded, okay? And that takes time. Especially, I've noticed once in a while, if you say stop and restart, it's a specific ad, and for some reason it was a little hung up. So I don't know if you know how to do that, but sometimes if it doesn't load, if you come up here, there's a X, and you can click on the X, and then you hit this, say refresh, and it'll reload it, okay? And it's funny how sometimes when it goes wait, 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 that'll actually clear it. Just called poor programming. Somebody was waiting on something that just doesn't seem to finish because they didn't program their software very good.
Does the amount of RAM you have any impact on the browser speed?
On the speed of loading pages and things? Yes.
It does?
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's dramatic, okay? Meaning, if you look at a curve of how much speed improvement you get by adding memory, I don't know the numbers for Windows 7, but on XP, you flattened out at 512. Believe it or not, at 512, the returns diminish dramatically, okay? And my guess is on Windows 7, it's about 2K. But basically what happens is if you look at how much RAM the programs are using, everything excess of that is used by the computer to do caching. I don't know how many of you know what caching is, but if you use like an ad, the same ad over and over again, it may be in memory already from the last time. So if you go to a site and it has an ad for Bayer aspirin, okay? And then you go to another site and it happened to have an ad for Bayer aspirin, it might already be in memory and it doesn't have to load it, okay? So if it has more memory, you can have more of that stuff preloaded and available, okay? The same happens with when you go out and read the disk. I said, well, there's issues with defragmenting, okay? Well, what the software does, this is a thing that they developed years and years ago. If you say, I want to read this off the disk, it makes a guess that you're going to want to read the next thing on the disk, just in case. So you say, go read program A, and it says, what's behind A? Go ahead and read that. And store it, so that if you say, read the next thing, which happened to be it, let's say, it would already be in memory, okay? So the more memory you have, the more it can pre-read, and maybe luck out and get what you want, maybe not, you never know. But if it's not defragmented, if it's all sequential, all of a sudden your odds of reading it what you want in advance go way up. Okay, so that's why defragging makes a difference. So it'll go out and it says, oh, I only want this little piece, because the program may not know that it needs the next piece yet. Once it gets, it says, oh, I need the next piece. And if it already has it in memory, you save a lot of time. Okay? On the web, it makes more difference than it does actually on a hard drive, because you're going across a slower interface. You're going out on the internet, and you're competing with everybody else. Okay? If you're going out on the web and you're got to go through Comcast or Verizon, there's at a certain point all that goes through one computer or one interface place. Okay? All right. I'm a little sidetracked here. So let's say we decide, okay, I don't really want Belarc. Okay? In your cases, it's more likely to be, geez, I got rid of that printer 3 years ago and it's still out here. So, but we'll go ahead and we'll uninstall it. Okay? Are you sure you want to uninstall this program? Yes? Okay. From experience, I've had no problems with this program doing uninstall, so I click Advance. If you're a little nervous, just leave it at the default, which is moderate. Okay? So if you don't back up your computer very often, you might be a little nervous, and you might want to leave it on moderate. Okay? So what it's doing now is it's actually taking like a snapshot of your machine. So it's going to your registry and different things. It's taking a snapshot, okay? And gathering information so that it knows what changes afterwards, okay? All right, uninstall method. At this point, we're actually in the uninstall program that Belarc provided, okay? So the way uninstalls work is the vendor that wrote the program provides the tools to uninstall it, okay? Turns out, actually, Microsoft program, and everybody else provides information to that program in a form that Microsoft dictates, and Microsoft actually does the uninstall. Okay, but Belarc sets up this file that has the instructions on how to do the uninstall. So, and this is the beginning of that. It says, okay, what do you want to do? We're going to tell it we want to do an uninstall, and we want to do it automatic. Okay, so click next. Says it's done. Now, so Belarc did its uninstall, and we're back to now into Revo, and Revo says, what do you want to do next? Now, this is one thing Revo is sort of bad about. When I was doing programming, you minimize how many clicks somebody had to make and how long they had to wait. They didn't do a very good job with that. So it did the uninstall from Belarc, and now it's ready to do its thing, so we'll say next. And it's going out and it's checking for leftovers in the registry. Okay? And the bigger your registry is, the longer it takes. Okay? Now it says, I did that, so click next. And there's what it found. So this program is not too bad. It left 9 things in the registry. Okay? So if you look here, there's the 9 things. If you're really into registries, that's what the registry hierarchy looks like. And you can see how cluttered things are or complicated things are. It's really not very important. You say select all. Selected them all, and you say delete. Are you sure? Yes. And then when you're done, you say next. All that just to clean out the extra registry. It says it's done. What it skipped was if the program left files. If under program files it left some junk, Revo would have brought that up and asked you if you wanted to delete that as well. Apparently Belarc cleaned itself up very well in that area, so we didn't see that screen. Okay?
Shortcuts?
What?
Did it delete any shortcuts?
I'm not sure about shortcuts. If you created them, they'll be left. Okay? If the program created the shortcuts on your desktop, they will be deleted. All right? So I don't know how many of you go in and set up your own shortcuts. I do. And if you do, for instance, this particular computer, let me finish. These icons from Microsoft were not put on there by Microsoft. Rosita or I put them on the desktop. Okay? So if we did uninstall of Office, those would be left.
Can you give us a high-level explanation of what registries are?
A four-letter word. Back in the old days, the days I liked, every programmer wrote his stuff. He had to have a place to store details that he needed to know the next time you ran his program. So if you wanted certain options, like up here where I clicked on this options and I showed you I checked and unchecked things, you have to remember that for the next time, okay? So the way we used to do it is each programmer would write it in a place that he knew, okay? And it was with a name and something I knew about. So I then when I came back up the second time, I could go find the information that I needed to put things back the way you wanted them, okay? So that's the way things used to work. And that was always done in what was called an INI file. It was actually a text file. And you could actually print it out and look at it. And it was very simple and easy. And if you came along behind somebody, you could say, oh, geez, just go look at the INI file and I could see what that programmer did and how the user set it up. For some reason, Microsoft decided that was too simple. And they made a database. The registry is a database, okay? And they organized it at a certain level. So each programmer now, instead of writing their own private file, it all has to go into the registry, okay? So when a program like Office runs, or Avast, or Defragler, if they follow Microsoft's instructions, they store the things that are special to them in the registry, okay? And it's all coded up. So an on-off, one of those buttons, on-off, is a 0 or a 1, okay? And it's buried in there with a string that says that is the particular thing. What I don't like about it is, if I'm a programmer and I'm writing Revo, I got to share with Defragler options, okay? So I say, well, there's certain things that you like one way and you like a different way. So I need to know how you like it and I need to know how you like it. And I have to store that information on your computer. And the registry does that, okay?
So what happens then when you wipe out the registry?
If you wipe out the registry on a Microsoft machine, your machine usually won't boot. Will not boot. Okay? You're in deep, deep trouble. So now you understand why I don't like it, because if I'm a programmer and you load a program from an amateur programmer and he wipes out your register, you're in deep trouble. Whereas before, if he wiped out a file, all he did was wipe himself out. He's the only one he affected. Now, if he's really poor, he can affect other people. He can destroy your computer. So the registry for a lot of people is a four-letter word.
So maybe for us, we better not do the registry thing.
Well, you don't have much control over it, okay? It's there. It's the way Microsoft does business. You have to learn to live with it. And we'll cover a little bit in a minute. That's what CCleaner will get to. But, yeah, if Revo screws up when it cleaned up your registry, you can get in trouble, okay? But the other side of it, like I said, everybody shares it, so it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And when I need to go find out my information, the bigger it gets, the slower the computer gets. So all the leftover stuff in there, if it's not taken out, is not helping keep your machine speeded up. So it's a risk to clean it. It's a risk not to clean it. All right. So that's how you uninstall programs. You have to be a little careful, because once you uninstall it, you can't get it back.
So look at all those Microsoft things. They all need to stay on.
Yep.
All.
Okay, and there's things in here that you may or may not want to know about. But like, for instance, here.
There's two identical ones down there.
Where?
The last row. Aren't they identical?
Probably not. So let's see what this one is. That's a fix for something Microsoft puts on the machine, okay? That's what this KB whatever says. That was a patch. You know how you get the updates from Microsoft?
Yeah.
That was an update, okay? Let's see what this, so that one ends in 91. What is this one? Ends in 94.
Oh,
so those were two different updates that occurred somewhere along the line.
They're
Why?
independent of one another, so you got to keep them both.
Yeah, you have to keep them both, because I don't know what they're fixing, but if it's something like that.
That you talked about prior, that'll pull these up as opposed to hiding them.
So if we go back up here and we hide that, let's see if it hides that one. No, that one's still there. Okay? So the advantages is sometimes you want to go install something, you don't find it in this list, okay? And by checking that, you will see it. My recollection, it's mostly things like printers, okay? It's not standard programs like defragler or Revo or CCleaner or something like that. But you see, in this case, it was a whole bunch of Microsoft Office things, parts of Microsoft Office.
And if you tried to uninstall it, would Microsoft catch you on that and say, whoa?
No.
Oh,
So you have to reinstall it?
No, and that's something that's a little tricky with certain programs. So in this case, this is Microsoft Office Professional. What's this? Okay, so if you do the one I just have highlighted, Office Validation, it will probably uninstall. My experience is it will uninstall, okay? That may be a needed part for Office. Now Office may be broken, okay? So if you're not sure what you're doing when you see multiples, you look for the one that looks like it's the starting point. If you can't identify that, just leave it alone, okay? So in this case, it's that one.
In that situation you just threw out, if you corrupted the program by
Yeah.
deleting that file, would you go back and uninstall the other program and then
Yeah.
go to the disk?
So if you did that, you would have to uninstall everything that had to do with that program, find the main one, or if you can't figure it out, do all the parts, and then reinstall it, okay? And how many of you are on the Yahoo group? The Yahoo group that we have on the website? We have something called the Yahoo group, okay? And you can ask questions, okay? So if you can't figure it out from doing a search on the internet, try the Yahoo group. Say, should I uninstall this or should I leave it? You'll actually find quite often when you do that search, somebody will ask that question out there on the web. Should I uninstall this or not? Okay, and then you can read what they said, okay? We have something called the Yahoo group, and you sign up on our website, and what it is, it's an email group where you can post a question about PCs, and there's about 200 or 300 people out there that are involved, and if somebody's had it before, they'll answer your question. And then there's other people. I've gotten too busy, but I used to just sometimes do the research. Rosita is very good. She might not know anything about it. She'll go do the research and come back and say, here's how you fix your problem. And there's a guy named, he may not be helping anymore. There used to be a guy named Michael B. that was very, very good too. He's a professional in town. He does this for a living, repairing computers, and he would answer questions. But if I see one I know the answer to, I'll jump in right away and I'll answer it.
I actually gave an answer for one.
What?
I actually gave a correct answer for one.
So yeah, you might actually, somebody says, how do you do this? Oh, I just learned how to do that last week. I remember how to do that. And you can answer the question. Anybody can answer the questions. Okay, so that's how you uninstall programs. And if your disk is getting full, like you said, 55%, if you've got a bunch of extra programs, certain ones are big. Microsoft Office is huge, okay? It's in like a gigabyte, so if you have a 40 gigabyte machine, it's, what is that, 1/40th, that's about 2.5%, okay, of your whole machine for one program, okay? So certain programs are big, most of them are not, and but if you clean up ones you know for sure you don't need, it's helpful.
I have an HP laptop, and every so often on the bottom there's a message, you're running out of space in your HP tool thing.
Down at the bottom?
Yeah.
That's something different. You running Windows 7?
Yeah.
All right. Everybody ready for a little digression?
Oh.
Quite most of the time when it says you're running out of memory, you're not running out of memory. That's a message that we see a lot, and it actually has to do with what's called virtual memory. Okay, and earlier on I showed you those two big files that Microsoft uses. I said that you won't defrag. One was called page file and one was hibernate file. So what happens is when you run out of real memory, it uses one of those files, and it says put things that are in memory out there temporarily so I can use memory for something else, and then go get them back and put them back into memory when I needed them. Okay, I did that pretty quick. Does everybody understand that? No, everybody didn't understand. Okay, so basically memory is critical because you only have so much of it. Okay, and in the old days it was very expensive. Okay, nowadays it's not so expensive, but everything has to be in memory to run. Okay, if you want to run a program, it has to be in memory.
So what that's telling me is that it's HP
No, let me finish.
All right.
So it says you're running out low on memory, okay? And what's supposed to happen is Microsoft is a modern day operating system, okay? An OS is an operating system, and it's supposed to take care of that for you, okay? And so it says, oh, you try to run more programs than you've got memory, all right? For some reason that's happened. So it uses your hard drive as a extra memory. So it takes things out of memory, temporarily puts them on the hard drive, and now it's got more memory, okay? Because it took it out of memory. You can run your programs. Then when things free up, it'll go to the hard drive and put it back in. So if you're running two programs, like a mail program and an Internet Explorer, and you run out of space, it may take the mail program and put it out on the hard drive because you're running Internet Explorer. When you're all done with Internet Explorer, it'll take that mail program and put it back into memory.
One of the things it tells you to do is, well, when you hit the thing to find out what you can do, all it does is empty your recycling bin.
Okay.
That's all it does.
But there's a feature down here. Let's see. I'll go through it real quick just so you know the concept, okay? You probably won't remember it, but if you go here, let's see it. My Computer, Properties. This is Windows 7. You don't have to do it hardly ever on Windows 7. See if I can remember where it is.
Advanced System Settings.
There it is, yeah. Advanced System Settings. Thank you, Sal. Then you go over here and you see Performance, Advanced, and Virtual Memory. Okay? All right. And in the old days, people used to set stuff in here. And on Windows XP, it defaulted to a fixed number, okay? And the way it should be set, they finally figured out how to do it in like Service Pack 2 or 3. It should say System Manage it, okay? So if you're running XP and it doesn't say System Manage, you need to click that, say Set, and when you reboot, it will expand your virtual memory, okay? And you will, if you're getting that message, the odds are 90% of the time that'll fix the problem. And if need be, you just work with that. Okay, let me see where I'm at. So that was Revo, and that was uninstalling programs. So it's okay, removing junk. There's lots of other junk on your machine. Okay, programmers have gotten very sophisticated over the years, and things get stored temporarily on your machine. So if you go out on the internet and you go to a site and they have an ad and they have different things, all those things are temporarily stored on your computer, okay? And there's different ways to clean those things up. Well, programs do it, not just the web browser, but programs do it too. They'll write temporary files, they'll do this, they'll do that. And over time, that'll bog your machine down. So this is junk, and there's some junk that you probably don't want to go fool around with that might be there a long time. But these are the easy ones, okay? So these are things you can do to clean up. So the first one is Windows Disk Cleanup. Okay, so there's how you get to it. Start, All Programs, Accessories, System Tools, Disk Cleanup. And select C, select Files, click OK. That's the instructions. I'll walk through one. Okay, All Programs, Accessories, System Tools, somewhere in here, Disk Cleanup. A little easier, it says select the drive you want to clean up. Okay, you may have a USB external hard drive, you may have some reason partitioned your drive, you can have multiples. Let's see what this one has. So this one's got two, Windows C, which is Windows 7, and Windows 8, which is on D, okay? So we're in Windows 7, so we're just going to fool with the normal C, which is usually all you work with on a normal computer. Okay, so it's going to go look and see things that Microsoft knows that's junk, okay? So every time you install a program, usually there's temporary files, there's log files. One of the things programmers learned a long, long time ago is somebody comes along and says, oh, I was running my program and halfway through it made an error. And they say, what were you doing? Well, people can never remember exactly what they were doing. So they came up with log files. And the programs will quite often write, as you type things, they'll store that information. So when the programmer comes back to debug it, he can say, oh, he clicked on this, he clicked on that, so now I know what he was doing when my program died. So that's what log files are. And I think you'll see those right here, okay? So in this case, there's 3.88 kilobytes of log files, okay? There's other ones in here. There's some recycle bins empty, temporary internet files, okay? So this machine's pretty clean. And you can check things you want to be cleaned up or not, okay? So in this case, this machine's only got 80.9. I would venture that any one of your machines is a lot bigger number, okay? I probably ran this when I was doing my slideshow. So it probably got run then. All right, you just hit OK. Are you sure you want to permanently delete these files? Delete the files. So it's going to go clean those things out, okay? All right, if we go back and do it again, let's see what we got now.
Doesn't C cleaner do the same thing?
Similar. They're not, none of them are identical. All right. That program probably has a log file. There's a log file back in there already, okay?
Huh.
So, but you see almost everything zero.
What does that cleanup system files do for you today? Does that restrict the cleanup?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. See if it shows us anything different. Okay. I think that didn't used to be separate in XP. It's taking longer. It may be looking through down in the Windows bowels for things that versus things that you normally do. Let's see what we see. Okay, service pack backup files. That wasn't there before. Okay. Windows Update. Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. All right. I'll have to play with that and learn a little bit more. I'll get you what my guess is, okay? But we'll go ahead and. Okay. On XP, and I'm sure they do it on Windows 7, every time you get an update from Microsoft, that has to be loaded onto your computer and stored somewhere, okay? And then, in theory, when you're all done with the update, you don't need it anymore. But on XP, they left it all. And on some machines, it was like a gig or 2 gigs, okay? If you had an older XP machine, it built up over time. And I'm suspecting that allows you to get rid of those. What I'll have to do is go play with, look at the OS before and after and see what I see. Okay, so that's Microsoft cleanup, and I use that tool. It's not like I think it's not any good. It does do some good. It cleans things up, and you will sometimes see huge temporary files. So if you've done lots of downloads and run lots of, an example of one that you guys might run into is if you go out to a site and you run a PDF file, you run the manual for your camera, okay? That gets loaded on your computer, and it stays there when you're done, okay? And this program and other tools will clean those things up. But over a period of time, if you're on the internet a lot, it gets to be a huge number of files that are temporarily put onto your machine that are left. Okay. So that's it. Windows disk cleanup. CCleaner also will do that. Okay. And see if I can get this to work here. We'll go get that. So that's the link that's in your handout. So CCleaner is from the same program as Defragler, same company as Defragler. So we'll go down here and we'll install it from Puriform. And CCleaner's been around a long time, has a very good reputation, a lot of people use it. And it has a lot of new features. For the refurbishing group, it's got features for wiping out programs, files that you don't want anymore. So say you had a financial program on your machine at one time and it had a lot of data you don't want everybody to see, it can actually wipe some of that stuff out. There's options inside CCleaner to do that now. Same with Revo. There's actually, if you go into some of the advanced features of Revos, there's programs in there to do that.
Does formatting the hard drive get rid of all of that?
Depends on which format you use.
If you use the Microsoft format?
Microsoft format has two features. One is quick and one is normal. If you use the quick, no, it doesn't erase anything. All it does is erase the pointers to where everything's are. If you run the right program, you can go get it all back.
The right program is called format?
If you do a format, you uncheck quick. And it'll run for, if you got a 1 gig drive, it'll run for hours, okay? But if it's an external drive, you can't format your C drive, okay? So that's one of the problems. You can't wipe out your C drive, okay? Because Microsoft says, I'm on there, you can't do that.
Well, I was thinking about going to the CMD command and typing the word format.
Nope, shouldn't work.
That won't let you clear the computer.
Not C. So the only way to format the C drive is with booting a CD or something like that, or booting a USB stick. Okay, so I usually do the same thing here, desktop start. I don't add it to the recycle bin. I don't put an option there, and I'll automatically check for updates. So I'll install CCleaner.
That cleans up a lot of cookies, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's got a lot of different options. Okay, intelligently scan for cookies to keep, I say yes. I assume they wouldn't offer this option if they didn't have some way to hopefully do it. But yeah, one of the things you'll find is if you run certain cleanups, things that your web browser remembered won't be remembered anymore, okay? So you have to be a little sometimes careful. So for instance, over here, Internet Explorer, cookies, okay? So if you don't want it to clean up your cookies, uncheck that, okay? And what do cookies do? They remember things for you. Like I was telling you about the registry remembers things that you didn't want to do. Cookies do the same thing. They might tell you, if you do a weather channel thing, it might tell you your location, okay? So this is where you are, so I'll bring you up to the Sarasota weather, not to Billings, Montana weather, okay? So if you don't want any of your cookies gone, you uncheck that. The previous screen said they're going to try to make a guess of what you need to keep and what's ads. A lot of ads are driven by cookies. So, you know, if you went yesterday and you looked at cars and you were looking at a Hyundai, and all of a sudden every site you got, it's got sites for Hyundai, it's because you looked at Hyundai an hour ago and they set a cookie saying, oh, Hyundai's a magic word. Okay, so these are different things. You got Internet Explorer, Windows Explorer, different things. Like here's the recycle bin and temporary files. Well, those were in the disk cleanup that we just did from Microsoft, so they're sort of redundant. You also have applications. Google Chrome, somebody apparently installed that on here. If you had Firefox, it would be over here, for instance. So look through. If you're not sure, you take the defaults and come over here. Let's see, I probably shouldn't have done that. Let's get this up where we can see it better. So we do an analyze. And it's going to go out and right now it's doing a file clean, okay? It's also got, like you see, a registry and other tools. So it's looking for leftovers. And in Windows 7, there's a specific place where most of the programs store their settings and so forth that are different from the registry, okay? So it's looking through all those different things to look at leftover things. So I just did the Microsoft cleanup, and now we're doing CCleaner, and you can see that all this stuff is still left, okay? So Windows search has some stuff left over. Avast has stuff left over. What else? Adobe Acrobat, Office. System temporary, that's the biggest one, okay? And then, I shouldn't say that's the biggest one, internet files is the biggest one, okay? Temporary internet files. Now, what's going to happen? So we go out there and we say, okay, clean this up. Well, basically, I think I told you when you go to the internet, if you download a file and it has to be used, it's already there, it doesn't go out on the internet. You've cleaned all those out. So the first time you go to a site that you've been to before, it probably is going to be slower, okay? So after you run this cleaner and you got rid of programs, files that are used on a regular basis, then it'll be slower because it'll have to load that file down one time. Then after that, you'll be back to the normal speed, okay? Make sense? Okay. So we'll run this one, we'll clean it up. Oh, you want to be sure? Yes. Okay, so that's what was cleaned off. Now, here's the registry, and it's a similar kind of thing. It's got a list of different things. We'll tell it to scan for issues. And if you're nervous, you can actually scan down through here and look at things to see what they are. So missing or shared DLL. So the registry is pointing to something that's not there anymore, okay? Unused file extension. So it's saying, in this case, let's pick this one here, PRF. Once upon a time, this machine knew what a PRF is, but it doesn't anymore. But it's still in the registry. Somebody left it there. They didn't clean up. So that's what all this stuff is. And some things you might understand, other things you may not. Like here it says obsolete Bellark. That was the program I uninstalled a little bit ago. Okay? And Revo apparently missed something, but CCleaner found it. So that's sort of my point about none of these programs are perfect. None of them pick up everything. Okay? So this is one or two things it looks like that on Bellark.
These things are understandable. If you get to those application path ones, it doesn't really tell you.
Yep.
So, but you might be afraid to do those.
Yep. So you're either going to trust the program or you uncheck them.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Would CCleaner ever direct you into a system program that gets you into real deep trouble?
I've had it once. I had CCleaner do something it shouldn't have. Yeah.
Then you get back to them and they correct them?
I never did that. I think I just undid what I did. I went back to the last known good configuration. But normally I've had no problems with it.
Are you saying then that typically before you would run something like this, you would do a restore point?
I think it does. Well, it does a registry backup. Okay, so it does a registry backup, and if your machine will boot, you just go double click on that and it'll put it back the way it was.
Okay, so...
But once my machine wouldn't boot anymore. Okay, so I had to go to the Windows 8, the F8 on my boot and tell it to go back to last known good configuration. So if you run it and you get in trouble, then you can get in real trouble. Like I said, the registry, they put everything together in one place. When something goes wrong, it's not good. So if you're really, really nervous, you don't do it. But you should be backing up your machine on a regular basis. And the best thing to do is run it after you back up your machine. Okay? That might be another class, is how to back up your machine. Okay, tools. Over here, there's different things. So, system restore. So if you screw up your registry, you can say, I want to reset it back to the way it was yesterday. Okay? That's a feature of Windows, well, starting with XP, I think, where you can say, I can go look at a date, and I know it was working good then, so I want to go back to that. So you can do that through Windows, you can do it through here. But you can also do, down here, drive wipe, and it allows you to wipe free space, overwrite things, and it'll, if you do it correctly, you can actually, if I remember right, wipe a specific file. Okay, so if you use like Quicken for your thing, you can say, all data, entire drive, that won't work unless it's an external drive, okay?
So that's safe to run then? I've always been leery about running that.
Yeah, so if you click C, it'll tell you, no, you can't do that. But this here allows you to, let me go back to the top here, free space only. So if you go in and you delete the files you want to be gone, your private files, then you come in here, they're deleted and you empty the recycle bin. They're in the free space. They're available to be reused, okay? So you can come in and you can say free space only, and you can say overwrite 1 time, 7 times, or 35 times, and it'll run for hours, but it'll wipe it so that not even the NSA can get it back, okay? 7 passes was designed to defeat the CIA, okay? So 35 is overkill, all right? So if you have financial records or whatever out there and you want to donate the drive, this is one way you can do it, okay? So you delete everything, empty the recycle bin, and you say wipe out the free space, okay? You can't, like I said, you cannot format the drive because Microsoft's running off of it, and the way they've designed their OS, it's using the hard drive, so you can't wipe that out, okay? That's the next best thing. The other thing is if you donate to the refurbishing group, we have a standalone program that we can run that will wipe the OS as well. Okay, so that's CCleaner. Okay, I did the analyze, run cleaner, select registry, and did that. Okay. Okay, Revo, one of the tools in it, is also a junk file cleaner. So when we've done 2 levels of junk file cleaners. We'll see if Revo picks anything up this time. So we'll. Okay, there's Revo. Click on Tools, Junk Files Cleaner. Okay. We'll click on, we're there, and we do a scan. So it's going out now and it's looking for things it thinks might be left over. And I said programmers years ago had come up with this concept of a log. They write a log and they can do things. They also, for years and years now, have done temporary files. So they need to do something and it's going to take more space than they want to allocate in their program. So they'll write it out to a temporary file. It's usually called .tmp. And then when they're done, if they did a good job, they delete it. Well, quite often they don't delete it. That's what quite often what Revo will pick up is TMP files. And it'll pick up other stuff. So we'll see what it picks up this time.
That's okay.
I'm running over. I lost track of time.
Do you defrag your external hard drive?
Yes, but carefully. Because my external hard drive has what's called TIBs, which are Acronis backups. So if you use Acronis, it builds a big, huge file. I usually don't defrag those. So in Defragler, you can actually say, I don't want to defrag certain directories or files. This is taking a whole lot longer than I thought. So let me see where we're at real quick here. So I've run out of time. I didn't cover internet access add-ons and toolbars, but if you have lots of toolbars, you can go to View and get rid of them. And that's, sometimes they will get disabled. So you can go to when we get this up on the website, you can go look at that part and see how to clean up your Internet Explorer or your Firefox, okay? And this part tells you that a lot of the toolbars are actually installed, and if you use Revo, you can uninstall them, and there's a list of ones that are good ones to get rid of. Okay, that tells you how to go into Internet Explorer. All right. So there's what happens when Revo finishes, okay? You'll notice there's temps and there's olds, and you just say delete and they're gone. Okay, now, certain files are in use, so they can't be deleted until you reboot, and that's what's left. Okay, and those are, I think, are all Avast or
Will that do it
Microsoft.
automatically, or?
Yeah, it'll do it automatically. Okay,